Well, why don't we move on to Barry Jenkins get another W as well for If Beale Street Could Talk. We started with the Golden Globes. We mentioned how uh, Bohemian Rhapsody won for Best Drama. It was up against Beale Street, and Regina King took home Best Supporting Actress. This was a much more deserving movie to win Best Drama, in my opinion. Stephen James, Kiki Lane, Regina King, uh, Brian Tyree Henry and Diego Luna just playing like bit roles. Like there's a lot to like about this movie.
Even Ed
I
Skrein
see
as the racist cop.
so
Just
good.
great cast everywhere.
It's amazing cast. You know, Barry Jenkins, is he a top 5 filmmaker, top 10 filmmaker? I mentioned in the best of 2018 pod for the movies that I feel like there's like 10 to 15 like real masters working right now. Like kind of got the old guard, the new guard, and in the middle, and he's got to be in that new guard.
Yeah, it's funny because he's a little bit older than Chazelle and some of the other guys we've talked about as the new people. But yeah, definitely because he, despite only having 3 films, I haven't seen Medicine for Melancholy, but I've heard it looks similar to Moonlight and Beale Street. He has this incredibly unique visual style in terms of the way he shoots his films.
Mm-hmm.
And to have that, big of a directorial identity with only a few films
Signature
is impressive. And yes, like he's a little older because he had trouble getting his films made. It's not like he's like a newbie or anything. Let's see, he's 39. So, and I think Chazelle's like 30, 31 or something.
Yeah.
So, despite, only having a few films under his belt officially, he clearly is really experienced. And yeah, I think that flair really adds to this film because from the get-go, you just see that his close-ups are fucking great. And that's the way he does these films. And I thought the Brian Tyree Henry scene, which has widely been lauded as the best scene in the film, it's Henry's only scene in the movie as well. That is an interesting choice he makes. He only uses one camera there. He used 2 cameras the rest of the movie. But by using one camera and panning from face to face through the conversation at the table, he really just kind of hammers home the point of the scene. I think that scene really kind of, for any doubters of the meaning of the plot, I think that kind of, hammers it home for everyone. And that was my favorite scene, obviously. But even though we just take away like his style, I think the movie is told in a really cool way because I haven't read the James Baldwin story from '74, but so I can't really speak to how much it's similar to that. But it really focuses on like love and family and like acceptance more so than the actual like violence and the racism. Like we never see any of the violence that Fonny experiences in jail. We just kind of see signs of it. We see how his character changes.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of see how Tish's attitude changes as she's going through everything, right? And I think it's done in a tactful yet subtle way that I think really benefits the storytelling.
Yeah, to add on to that, you don't even see, what the alleged rape that or anything related to it really. You just kind of see the after effects. And I think the thing I like most about this film is it's such a human story, and I think that's what Jenkins does so well, and that's why his close-ups are so effective, and the way he's able to bring certain emotions out of you and out of his actors, using these close-ups and using the color palette. I mean, it's an incredibly sharp looking film, a lot of bright, vibrant colors, a lot of really sharp patterns on the characters, on their clothing, and just he was talking about how like when you first see Brian Tyree Henry, he actually filmed that in New York City, I believe in the Bronx. And if you like panned over like 5 feet, you'd see a Whole Foods right there. But he's able to just find these sections, these like real parts of wherever he wants to do these things that really bring his movies to life. And I thought the score by Nicholas Bertel was just phenomenal, and it adds so much to the film. And you mentioned his camera work and how he kind of goes back and forth, but he does it really slowly, and it's not always the camera isn't always on the person talking. And I think that really creates an air of like being a part of a conversation and not just listening into what someone's saying, and that's a huge difference. And I found myself during that Brian Tyree Henry scene almost like feeling like I was actually sitting there at the table with them, because it's just so, it really just reels you in. Brian Tyree Henry delivers that monologue in such a haunting way.
Yep.
And the way that the score changes from being pretty hopeful to like almost like a horror film score
Yeah.
during it's just masterful. It's up there with me with a couple of other scenes throughout the year, like Allie, like the first time Allie comes on stage with Jackson Maine. Probably the Spider-Verse when he takes the leap of faith. That's a pretty awesome scene. A couple other ones that come to mind, but it's one of the scenes of the year for sure.
Yeah, and it's funny because the movie's it's ultimately really melodramatic, right? Like it's but it's done such a, I think, a loving touch for the subject matter of the story that it works so well. And even I saw some comments about this before I saw the movie, but I know Dave Franco's appearance in the film and that subsequent scene was perhaps seen as a weak point. Maybe it was unnecessary. I didn't mind it. I thought, if anything, I wish he would have maybe changed his delivery a little bit. He just sounded so much like comedic Dave Franco that it was a little distracting. If I
Yeah.
was expecting him to make like a joke or something, because it's the same normal nasally
Cadence.
cadence that we know from him. I was watching Neighbors 3 or something. Other than that, I thought the scene itself was effective. Yeah, man, I expect this to get nominated for Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay. Regina King should get nominated for Best Supporting Actress. I think those are all locks. And I'm fairly certain Barry should get nominated for Best Director as well. I'll be very fucking mad if Peter Farrelly from Green Book takes his spot. Not that he should be the last guy cut or anything, but I expect those all to go. Shout out Stephen James. Great year. We mentioned that a few weeks ago. But Overlord, Homecoming, Beale Street. Great year for him. And yeah, you mentioned the score, Nicholas Bertel. I think it's probably the best score of the year. It's this one. Maybe Justin Hurwitz for First Man. There's only a few at this top tier, and he's there. And lastly, I thought the saturated colors of the film really affected the story in terms of, like I said, like a warm feeling, because we've seen lots of movies set in 1970s New York and the 70s in general. They usually don't pop like this. They don't look like this. They look darker and dirtier, and we definitely know what the city looks like. But by saturating everything and making it more colorful, even like the scene where they have sex and like Tish's, like their skin's like glowing, like there's from the lights. There's so many cool touches with how they shot this. So shout out the director of photography for that. But yeah, I think this is a movie that you can watch it, and there's so many different things to appreciate, and we've mentioned a lot of them, that it's tough for me to really understand walking away from this and not, appreciating it, because there's so much going on.
Yeah, Barry Jenkins, I feel like every time he makes a movie, it's probably going to be in the Best Picture discussion, just because he picks really good stories. He picks human stories, which are usually big for award season, and he just shoots them in such an amazing way and gets so much out of his actors. He's really, really just a wonderful director, and can't speak highly enough about this movie. I can't imagine it's making a lot of money. I actually forgot to look that up, but
Not even 10 million yet.
yeah, but hopefully people will see it when it gets to streaming services.